Hi everybody, I'm Karen MacNeil, author of the Wine Bible and editor of the digital newsletter Wine Speed. And this is the Champagne Life, a series of fast, fun videos brought to you by the Champagne Bureau. In France, July is an important month because of Bastille Day, July 14th. That's the day when the Bastille prison fell and the French Revolution began. And it's inspired me to tell you a bit about Champagne's extraordinary history, a long history that's glorious and complex. Champagne's story begins 70 million years ago when a vast prehistoric sea covered northern France. As the waters receded and what was known as the Paris Basin sank, this great crescent of limestone rich with minerals was left behind. From this geologic legacy would eventually emerge the beautiful chilly vineyards of the Champagne region, 90 miles northeast of Paris. No one person invented Champagne exactly. Champagne was the curious result of decades of work by many Champenois based on a happenstance of nature. Climate is key. Champagne is one of the coolest wine-producing regions in the world. Historically, wines would be made in the fall and left to settle over the winter, and the cold temperatures would paralyze the yeast, temporarily halting fermentation before all of the grape sugar had been turned into alcohol. Once spring arrived and the wines and yeast warmed up, the wines would sparkle, a sign that fermentation had resumed. For a long time, the people of Champagne were not amused. No other wines in the world foamed that way. In fact, during the 17th century, many monks who made Champagne tried to get the wine to stop bubbling. By today's standards, those original Champagne wines would have been unrecognizable. They were cloudy, yeasty, pinkish-orange wines, often heavily sweetened. But in the 18th and 19th century, the wines of Champagne were transformed. Champagne's winemakers began to think about the wine differently. Wines that sparkled, they realized, were distinctive. Nature had given them something unique. All sorts of new methods ensued. The process of remuage was invented to remove the sediment after the second fermentation. Vineyards were better cared for to preserve the delicacy of the wines, and champagnes became drier and drier. As quality soared, so did sales. Today, in nearly every country in the world, you can buy a bottle of champagne. Lastly, I want to add a note about the spirit and determination of the Champagne people. You know, the region is spread over a strategic geopolitical area in Europe. During both World War I and World War II, the vineyards of Champagne were often battlefields, and Champagne producers suffered greatly. But their spirit and work ethic endured. Even in the worst of times, Champagne wines were made, and those wines symbolized happiness and a sense of hope for the future. Today's champagnes still do. In honor of that, I've opened two champagnes I absolutely love, the Gosset Grand Reserve and the Krug Grand Cuvée. The Gosset is an example of the incredible finesse and elegance that Champagne wines possess, and the Krug is almost broodingly rich. Its distinctive full-bodied style is unforgettable. Thanks for joining me. I'm Karen MacNeil, and if you'd like to learn more about the Champagne region, go to www.champagne-mooc.com.